A step towards ending the Nazi regime, the White Rose Resistance. The White Rose Resistance was formed during World War II in Munich, Germany, to protest the wrongdoings of Adolf Hitler. Hitler had seized all power over Germany and dictated the country with the Nazi Party and the Gestapo. The White Rose was a non-violent resistance student group founded in June 1942, which protested against Nazi oppression. The group was formed during a tragic time when the citizens of Germany were too intimidated or blinded by the Nazi government to speak out. Yet despite the tragic capture and executions, the members of the White Rose bravely contributed to the triumph of the Allies by protesting through leaflets and graffiti and influencing other German groups to also take a stand, even after their own deaths. The resistance consisted of 6 main members: students Hans Scholl, Sophie Scholl, Alexander Schmorell, Willy Graf, Christoph Probst, and their teacher, Kurt Huber. The students all attended the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich, where they learned in classes taught by Professor Kurt Huber. It was World War II when Hitler rose to power, promising victory and a future for Germany over the Allies. Hitler had a vision to instill discipline and loyalty in his people, and decided there would be no better way to bring up these teachings than influencing the youth of Germany. Young boys and girls would enthusiastically join the Hitler Youth and the League of German Girls, groups created through 1922 and 1930 to prepare and indoctrinate teenagers in Nazi principles. The youths were caught up in the excitement, letting the haste and glory blind them from the true values of the new government.
Very skillful in propaganda, and in fact, their minister of propaganda was named Joseph Goebbels, and he created an approach that was called Gleichschaltung, which means make everything coordinated. So the propaganda meant that they took over television. There wasn't television to any great extent, but radio was very important. They took over the newspapers, they took over publishing, the book publishing industry, they took over the schools and movies, magazines, fashion magazines, and everything conveyed the same message, which was that Hitler was the supreme leader.
Siblings Hans and Sophie Scholl were among these youth. Disagreeing with their liberal father's point of view, they joined the groups, ambitious and ready to support the new Germany. But as they started to spend more time among the group, they started to critique and question the Nazis' rule. After joining the Hitler Youth, Hans quickly got promoted to the rank of troop leader. Feeling that Hitler's youth repressed individual thought and expression, Hans wanted to introduce elements of religion, philosophy, and international culture to his troop, but found that it was restricted. Later, he was chosen to serve as a flag bearer in the Nuremberg Rally in the year 1935. A great honor. But there, through the endless, senseless drilling and injustice to the Jews, Hans gradually realized that Nazism was truly pointless. He went back home and shared his observations with his sister and close friend, Christoph Probst, thus the beginning of their shared ideas which would soon form the White Rose. Sophie Scholl was the younger sister of Hans. Sophie quickly became a group leader, just like her brother. She was caught reading out to a younger group of girls passages from the Book of Songs by the banned Jewish writer Henry Kane, and didn't understand why fine literature should be restricted. This was the start of the motivation which caused Sophie to criticize and protest against the Nazi government. She joined her brother, Hans, who was studying medicine at the university. Hans introduced Sophie to his friends. The members of the White Rose met when Sophie began her studies at the Munich University in 1942. Soon, the friends started talking and bantering about the Nazi politics. They found that they had similar values and visions about the government. All of the members had anti-war viewpoints, which were considered anti-Nazi, thus creating the White Rose. The students attended classes taught by Kurt Huber at the Munich University. The White Rose presented themselves to Kurt Huber, and he quickly got involved. The White Rose passively resisted the Nazi regime and injustice of Hitler through printing leaflets and graffitiing walls as means of peaceful protest. The group's first leaflet was produced and signed as the White Rose Resistance on June 1942. The members would gather to write their leaflets and would use a typewriter to hand copy and produce dozens of copies for fear of being exposed through a public printer. The leaflets were left on walls, scattered through gathering areas, stuck in bookcases and phone booths, and mailed out to professors and students. Throughout the 6 leaflets they produced, the White Rose members would inform their readers to donate nothing to the war effort. This was supporting the Allies, who were acting as defense against Germany's attacks. The Allies wanted no war, and the White Rose were anti-war as well, changing the mindsets of many German citizens. They protested in the fight for freedom and their future, warned citizens to distrust the leadership of Hitler, and to always remember to share the leaflets. They urged the citizens to stand up for their rights and to no longer be blinded by the treacherous government. The group of friends experimented with other ways of expressing their opposition as well. Hans, Schmerel, and Graf painted slogans of freedom on walls across Munich during 3 nights in February 1943. Schmerel had fabricated a stencil for the purpose, and the slogans were painted with black charcoal. They wrote the words, "Freedom," and "Down with Hitler" in large letters on the entrance to the university several times on February 4th and 9th. The slogan, "Mass Murderer Hitler," and crossed-out swastikas, appeared on buildings around the central areas of Marienplatz and Viktualienmarkt on February 16th. The slogans were applied to about 30 different facades. The Gestapo had them removed immediately, but not always entirely successfully. It was February when Sophie and Hans were passing out the Resistance's 6th and what would be their final leaflet. Hans and Sophie rushed around the main hall of the university, scattering their leaflets anywhere they could. In a desperate measure, Hans and Sophie rushed up to the balcony above the main hall, throwing the leaflets over the railing as they fluttered down upon the students piling out into the main hall after their classes. Janitor and loyal follower of the Nazis, Jacob Schmid, witnessed the pair as they hurried down from the stairs. He immediately called them to halt, and the doors to the building were locked. The Scholl siblings complied, and within time were taken into custody by the Gestapo. Under the custody of the Nazis, the Scholls were questioned endlessly about partnerships or people who had helped them. When the siblings refused to answer any questions, the Nazis started interrogating the members' close friends, including Probst, Schmerel, Graf, and Huber. Through a draft for a 7th leaflet found in Hans's pocket, the Gestapo discovered evidence of Probst's involvement and tracked him down as well. Their trial began on February 22, 1943, 4 days after their arrest. Their judge, Roland Freisler, was a merciless man, and after ranting and verbally abusing Sophie, Hans, and Probst, sentenced their punishment, execution. They were brought to Steidelheim prison and met with their parents for the last time. They were allowed one last visit together before Sophie was led to the guillotine. Just before being beheaded, Hans's last words rang out throughout the prison courtyard. "Long live freedom." Sophie's inmate, Elsie Goebbels, recorded Sophie's last words. "Why should my death matter if by our action, thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action?" The Gestapo investigation was relentless, and they soon found, trialed, and executed the rest of the members. The White Rose resistance was able to triumph through the wave they made to raise awareness of the country that was being dictated and torn apart. In total, the group printed and passed out 15,000 leaflets by themselves, while a German aristocrat smuggled the group's leaflets to friends in neutral countries. After the group's execution, the leaflets were then sent to the Allies, who made thousands of copies and then dropped them over German cities, spreading the influence and message of the White Rose even more. As one of the first passive resistance groups against the Nazis, the White Rose made a huge impact within the people who also shared the same views. In this way, the group was able to impact most people around them for the time being. The White Rose affected many other groups, such as the Swing Kids, a group of young Germans who purposely resisted the Nazis by dancing to swing music from foreign countries. The Swing Kids later supported the White Rose and stood alongside the resistance in hopes of ending the Nazi regime. Elizabeth Scholl, the younger sister of Hans and Sophie, spoke out about the public's reaction to her family. "We were outcasts," Elizabeth recalled. "Many of my father's clients, he was a tax accountant, wanted to have nothing more to do with the family. It was always nothing personal, just because of the business."
And now if you go to Germany, you will start to find streets named after resistance figures in both the Red Orchestra and the White Rose, and schools and people really taking pride in what these people did and their great courage.
Today, German citizens are held accountable to human dignity and equality. Every citizen has the right to freedom of speech and assembly, something that was restricted and kept from the Germans under Hitler's dictatorship. Since history has patterns and often repeats itself, the White Rose is a patriotic reminder today to speak up for our own voices. The group recognized the inevitable defeat of Germany and did not hesitate to stand up for the country they loved. Though their beliefs and values were unacknowledged because of most people's unwillingness to see justice, the White Rose stood up for what was right, which has inspired many others to do the same. These students risked their lives to share their opinions and values, and the message gained from this is to always stand up for what is just, even if tragic consequences come with it.